Okay, so yeah, well, I'm using notes, and today's discussion will focus on two things I have identified from Haley's submission of the latest Education Perfect work. And these are the two areas. I'll divide it into two parts, and simultaneous equations and something called inequations. I haven't had time to touch on these inequations, but I have done a little bit of work in class with the simultaneous equations, and I could see the students were struggling with it. So this is the problem. 4r plus 3t 25 equals 25, and the other one is r equals t plus 1. That's equation number 1. That's equation number 2. Now, this one is all right. R is the subject of 2, so we don't have any problem with that. So we got to rearrange and make R the subject of number 1. Now that's the first thing we got to do, and then we can simply go for substitution, which makes it simpler. Or otherwise, there are other methods too, which may not be that simple. If I have time, I'll touch on that. So 4r equals 25 minus 3t. So r will be equal to 25 minus 3t over 4. Now I can see the problem is becoming more complicated. So let me try to find out if I have simpler method. So if I substitute this r equals t plus 1 into this one, so this will be 4, r is this, t plus 1 plus 3t equals 25. So instead of going for the rearrangement and all that complicated method, which is obviously one of the methods, I go for substitution. Now I know you'll be asking me the question, how do you know? Actually, it's a practice. Repeated practice will make it easier for you. And then expand this one, 4 times t plus 4 times 1 is 4 plus 3t equals 25. Now 4t and 3t, they are both positive. That will give you 7t plus 4 equals 25. You got to have that kind of fluency in level 1. Otherwise, it'll be very difficult to do the MCAT algebra, which is forthcoming, which is coming up next week. So now solving it, that'll give you 70 equals 25 minus 4. 70 equals 21. So t should be equal to 21 divided by 7. That gives you 3. Now, that is not the end of the problem. Now we got to figure out r, and for that matter, I can use this number 2. No, sorry. I mean, number 2, it's up top. So if I use the number 2 equation, which is basically r equals t plus 1, so r, the relationship between r and t is 1 extra. If added to t, that gives you r, so r will be 3 plus 1. Why this 3? And that gives me 4. So now we got to think about which one is the x and which one is the y-axis. So this is the y-axis, this is the y-axis, this is the, well, what do you call, the y, this is the x, this is the x, this is the y. So you got to write it as 4 and 3. I wrote it as a coordinate system, right? Okay. Now, when do I need it? When you are trying to solve it on the linear algebra, if you are trying to find out this point of intersection, that is the time, sometimes you got to use it. If it is readable from the graph, if it is a whole number, tidy number, then you don't have much problem like this one. And most likely you will be able to read that off the graph. But why are we learning it? Because sometimes the answer could be non-whole numbers, like say 4.1, 3.2 or something like that. In that kind of situation, you got to use algebra. Okay, let's move to the inequations. What is inequation? So we know something. 2 is greater than 1. That's inequation. That's greater than. If it is pointing to the left, it's less than. If it is greater than, and that's, it could be greater, or it could be equal, or equal. Similarly, it could be less or equal, right? So why do we need it? Sometimes we got to say, my salary is more than $20. Just an example. So my salary is greater than $20. See that? So this is not equation, this is inequation. So basically anything which is larger than 20 will be valid. But if I say my salary could be greater than equal to, then I got to use that sign. Okay. So negative 2x, that was the problem, plus 2 is less than, this is less than equal. See that? So the answer will be not exact, it will be within certain range. That's what it means. You got to solve, you got to listen to me carefully now. You do pretty much the same thing what you do with an equation, except one distinct difference when you have the inequality. Let me see, when the time comes, I'll show it to you actually what makes the inequality a little bit different to the equations. Let's imagine this is something like, imagine this is an equation. Imagine this is an equation, negative 2x plus 2 equals 1. How do you solve it? You simply go negative 2x equals 1 minus 2, negative 2x equals negative 1. Now we have a problem, and the problem starts somewhere. So this is not going to give you the right answer. We got to write the original inequality which was given to you. This was something like this, right? And the answer, if you simply write it like an equation, you may not be right. Because, okay, let me justify why. I know something, 2 is greater than 1, isn't it? If I multiply both sides, by negative 1, what is going to happen? It will be negative 2. Is it questionable? Greater than negative 1. Is it true that negative 2 is greater than negative 1? And it's not true. So in that kind of situation, you got to reverse the sign. If you multiply, you got to reverse the sign, or if you multiply both sides by negative 1, you got to reverse the sign. So yeah, okay, I'm making it more confusing. Just give me a bit of time. So in that kind of situation, if you times both sides by negative 1, the problem will be over. But the thing is that the moment you times it by negative 1, it'll be positive 2x, and you got to reverse that sign, so that the reverse that sign to greater than equal to 1. So x is greater than equal to 1 over 2. X is greater than equal to 0.5. You need to watch few videos that will give you idea. Probably you are still quite confused. I'll stop there, because if I keep talking at this time, it's not going to make it 100% clear. So you have to watch a few videos on inequality. Thank you very much. So now, before I close, I want to mention the inequalities are solved pretty much the same way as an equation with an equal sign, except in the last part, if you multiply by a negative number, if you multiply both sides by negative number, the inequality sign will reverse. It'll just flip to the other side. That's all I'll say at this moment, and I'll stop.